is Bill Brownstein, a columnist for the Montreal Gazette. That's what everybody on the surface knows him as. But Bill has been in the community for a long, long time, and he's done a lot of different stuff that some of us don't know about. I think probably all of us know that he's the author of Schwartz's Hebrew Delicatessen, the story, he hasn't personally said this out loud maybe, but he would seem to be the #1 lover of smoked meat in Montreal, and has long been a fan of Schwartz's. But he's also done other things. He's made 2 documentary films. He made a documentary called Bill Lee, A Profile of a Pitcher, and that was about the former Montreal Expos pitcher, Bill the Spaceman Lee. He did another documentary called Skating on Thin Ice, which is about the nomadic life of 2 journeyman hockey players in the NHL. Now, here's one that I think we're definitely going to ask him about later. He's the author of Sex Carnival, a whimsical peek into the wide world of sex. And also Down the Tube, which is an account of the week he spent watching TV. So apart from all his wonderful columns in the Montreal Gazette every week, of course, I imagine everybody saw the article on Father John this morning, who's been a regular guest at our club in the past. Bill is also the co-author and the co-editor of the Great Canadian Character Anthology. So without further ado, I'll ask Bill to tell us all about life in Quebec.
All about life in Quebec. Right now, I'm so invested, as I imagine the rest of you are, in American politics. I don't know why we get so invested. I mean, like, as much as I'd like to care about what goes on here politically, other than the referendum in Quebec, the fact that so many of us get so wound up by US politics, I mean, it certainly affects us in a big way. And I don't know how many of you stayed up very late last night and got up very early this morning to hear what was going on. I don't know how many of you are Trump fans and how many of you're not, but being Canadian, the great majority, 85% of Canadians wish Joe Biden would win. I don't know if that reflects the views of the Rotary Club, but nonetheless, I don't know if you heard this morning where Donald Trump, because he was ahead in voting by day ballots, but he wanted to cease counting all the mail-in ballots, all the absentee ballots, all the early voting ballots, because he said it should stop, most likely because he was ahead at that moment. And now he's no longer ahead in a lot of these key races. So of course he wants to stop and wants to go to the Supreme Court to get the judges that he placed in on his own, the 3 conservative judges, to support him here and sort of take away the presidency. It's like third world. It's Putin-esque. It's North Korean-esque. It's shocking. I don't know how the rest of you feel about this, but you know, like anybody who believes in democratic values has got to be shocked by a lot of what's going on down there. And I don't know if the rest of you are in the same boat, but why is it that we get so wound up by American politics? Do people have any thoughts on this? And what are your views on basically what's going down politically there? I mean, Quebec is not always the most stable of places, but I mean, we do have, you know, democratic norms that we follow, I mean, to a large extent. And I mean, we don't live in a crazy world, but I'm fearing that we're veering there. So, I mean, if any of you have comment, I'd like to know how the rest of you feel about this situation in the States and politics in general here.
I think we have to be careful here because we are a non-denominational, non-political club.
But you do believe in democracy.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, that's a universal desire. I think you've got a good point there. But I think a lot of people are concerned because, as Pierre Trudeau said 50 odd years ago, we're the mouse sleeping beside the elephant. And when the elephant rolls over, it affects us. There's so many things in terms of our foreign policy and our local economies that depend on the United States. So we have a lot of reason to be concerned.
I mean, we have huge reason to be concerned, but on the other end, it makes you very proud to be Canadian. I mean, we might take issue with some of our prime ministers, some of our premiers, but I don't think people have had the visceral kind of reaction here to most any of our politicians as we do perhaps to the guy with the orange hair down south. But I'm shocked here, like how many people like it's so are so worked up, and yet I'm not shocked because it, like as you say, the elephant rolls over and it rolls over on us. But nonetheless, it's so dramatic. I mean, they're like, I mean, you talk about flawed people like in office, but I mean, Canadian, we've had some, characters, like I say, over the years, but I don't think we've ever seen flawed characters like the likes of which we see parading around in the States, and with complete disregard to the coronavirus and the pandemic and the super spreader crowds and all the rest. It's shocking. And, when you look at how the coronavirus has affected parts of the world, we haven't done great in Quebec. Canada has done great, but you look at third world countries, you look at places like Nigeria, for all its problems, they've had only 84 people who've died as a result. When you look at, Korea, South Korea, that is, I think 4 people. So why is it that like a huge like the champion of democracy, one of the supposedly the greatest country in the world, can't have a leader who can prevail upon his people and say, please socially distance, please wear masks and all the rest, and sort of laugh about it, like have no plan whatsoever. It's shocking.
Maybe that's one of the prices we pay for having freedom.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I think though you're dealing with a madman in some situations who just it's out for his own to feed his own ego and not necessarily have concern for like his citizenry. I mean, he got the coronavirus, so he thinks he's immune, and he's probably on some sort of steroids right now, like running around the way he is. But it's irresponsible. It's shocking. And I mean, all of you know what it's like to be confined, and we play by the rules. We wear masks, we distance, and all the rest. So I mean, why is it so difficult to get Americans to understand this?
Well, we are the polite ones. Don't forget that.
Yeah, we are very polite, but sometimes being polite isn't good enough. So
I think we should count ourselves very lucky that we live in a country where our idea of a scandal is that somebody is being fined for putting the word cannelloni on a menu. And the worst scandal we can possibly have in the entire country has to do with a charity. Yes. These are our scandals. We're pretty damn lucky.
We're very damn lucky when you consider that. You're absolutely right. I mean, we make the news because someone has the audacity to put an espresso on a menu or pasta. I mean, these are the stories. And by the way, these are the stories that get picked up from Quebec around the world, like pretty much nothing else does. So yes, but I guess we should be grateful on that level that that's what we're dealing with. And there's a certain humorous aspect, and even like with the We Charity again, I mean, that's such small potatoes compared to the stuff that, you've got a president who's paid $750 in taxes, and the lying and the deceit and everything else. I mean, we are so, polite, and, we're like kids in Sunday school compared to what's going on down there.
Hey, we're a wild and crazy nation. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
I have a question for you, Bill.
Yes.
How, or I don't know, what is the criteria, or how do you decide who you are going to do stories about?
Well, it's kind of interesting. Things crop up, like you pointed out, the situation where, small bakery shop owner in Little Italy got busted by the OQLF for having a sign in the midst of a pandemic, when restaurants are shut, when little like merchants are having a hell of a time surviving. I mean, we give an extra $5 million to the OQLF to come down on people. I think that that kind of jumps out at you, and all the more so in this case. There's a guy, a satirist, a sort of modern day or a latter day Bowser and Blue type character. His name is Matthew Guifrida, who did a video all on this. Is hysterical, very blue, but very, very hysterical about like Quebec, in the midst of all this nuttiness going on around the world. It's like we're concerned about like, signs on blackboards for like Renita, which is an Italian sort of sorbet, and espresso. I mean, that kind of jumps out at you. And then there are other things like, today I did a thing on Father John Walsh, who in my mind, whether you're religious or not, is one of the finest people I've ever met in this city. And he keeps on giving and giving and getting involved. Like in this particular case, I got wind of the fact that there's a new, I don't know if you're aware of the Nazareth community, like houses for men and women, homeless men and women. The third house is opening in Shaughnessy Village on Seymour Street, and it's going to be called John's House, and it's opening tomorrow night. But here's a man who retired from the church like 8 years ago, but he still is so involved, like building a palliative care center in LaSalle, involved with this new development for the Nazareth community, involved with Procure, which is in the fight against prostate cancer, and and just such a reassuring voice in such uncertain times. Like I say, you don't have to be religious to to understand or appreciate him. I mean, he speaks to all, and like I say, one of the good people in the city. So when you hear about him getting involved in something like that, you want to also celebrate that fact too. So we can be very cynical and sarcastic about the state of the planet, and you can also take hope in the fact that there are some good people out there. So
is that what drives you, the individual story?
Yeah, I mean, I like people's story. I mean, it's easy to react a lot of times to stupid situations, but you want to do it in a non-predictable fashion. And but I like the human stories that come out. Like people, I did a piece last week about a psychotherapist who's never been more busy in her career, but yet she wishes she wasn't, because there's so many people in need. Like they're going through such anxiety and isolation, and like desperate to talk to people, and especially when it comes to seniors, but young people as well. And people like that say, well, look, business is good, but I wish it weren't. And I mean, that kind of story jumps out at you as well. You look for people who are innovators, people who are like just, they march to their own. And I mean, whether they're humorists, whether they're serious, it doesn't matter. But it's always fun to run into interesting Montrealers, because we have a lot of them. And I'm sure you have your fair share down there.
We certainly do. If anybody has some questions for Bill, don't be afraid to unmute yourself.
I won't bite. I can't reach you.
That would work better if I unmuted myself. As I was going to say, if anybody has questions, you can either go into the chat box and leave a question, and Heather will pick that up, or you can butt in here and pose your question personally.
Just as a reminder,
my name is Evie, and I was liberated by the Canadian troops in Holland. It was an unforgettable experience. And so at the moment, I'm very interested in what the veterans are doing and what we can still do for the veterans. And what I like about the Rotary is that politics is a forbidden subject.
I didn't know this.
Because it's divisive, because it's international. And so religion and politics are forbidden subjects. And I really enjoy.
So forget everything I said.
Yeah, I will. It's divisive. It's very dangerous. A very, very dangerous subject.
Well, I know, and this is.
And I'm very proud of my father, who, when the Jewish professors, he was a professor, my father, at the university, when they were told to, no longer teach at the university. He wrote a protest letter. He was arrested. He was put in a hostage camp. I had a sister who worked for the resistance, who took Jews to hiding places, and she got 2 medals after the war. And that is what I'm interested now, because of the veterans, because of having, been liberated, because we had a terrible time. We always almost starved to death.
Well,
And
I
that's why
certainly,
I'm giving a lot of money to the food banks, because there are actually people in Montreal who are starving. There's an
yes.
organization called Generations. They bring a warm meal to 60 schools every single day. And I wish that the Gazette would write about that.
We write a lot about food banks. In fact, one of the things that
No,
we're,
about the one of the children.
well, actually we do.
It's called Generations.
Yeah, well, we've written very much on top of like food banks and giving and if you read, you'll see that we do cover those things very, very frequently. And I mean, but more to the point, my heart goes out to the veterans as well. Last year, I was involved with some people I work with on television, Terry DeMonte and Joey Elias and Aaron Rand, and the LaSalle chapter of the Legion were in desperate straits for tax reasons and all the rest. This year, all the vets, I mean, you can't, they're having a heck of a time trying to sell their poppies anywhere because, they're not, the supermarkets don't really want them around, because of the pandemic. And I think that we have to somehow figure out a way to support them and support the poppy sales, because this is their sole source of revenue pretty much. And
Yes.
we're losing more and more. There are very few leftover veterans from the Second World War. I've written extensively over the years about several who've jumped into my radar, but I would suggest, I don't know about the rest of you, but like there's a Legion, as you know, in Westmount next to the arena, the Montreal Regiment, the Westmount Regiment on St. Catherine Street. You can certainly support them at they're selling poppies, and you can make donations to them to keep the veterans going.
Bill, I've got a couple of questions that have come in here.
Yeah.
And one of them is, we'd be interested in hearing something about your filmmaking.
Yes, well, that goes back a few years. I did a film on a guy called Bill Lee, who some Montreal baseball fans might remember. He marched to the beat of his own drummer. This guy, he was a pitcher. He was definitely very unorthodox in style and very strong opinions politically, socially, and everything else. And basically followed him around the city. And you get baseball, like a lot of these sports, are very monolithic. I mean, in terms of the characters in there, they speak a similar voice and all the rest. So it's refreshing when you meet someone who is a maverick and has his own ideas and yet is very committed to the sport. It was an awful lot of fun following him around, and like the guy's still going. If anybody ever listens to Mitch Melnick on TSN radio, you'll hear, he's almost 80 years old and he's still playing baseball in pickup games like in Vermont, around the country. The film played theatrically and was on television way back when. This goes back like 30 years. So in my youth.
Anything else in the pipeline?
Not at present. I mean, everything's sort of, we can't move pretty much because of the pandemic. So, I mean, when it comes to TV documentaries or, we do, like I'm on radio, as you probably know, on CJD on weekends and other days. And with the people I mentioned, Terry DeMonte and Aaron Rand, we were on with Mitsumi Takahashi before the pandemic every week. But people can't go into studio, so we're on FaceTime doing what we call the gripes of the roundtable. I don't know if any of you have seen that, but it seems to be a popular segment where we kind of complain about life in our city when it comes to, things that seem petty now, but like parking and going downtown and all the rest. I mean, the way the city is all choked up, but you know, in light of what's going on in the rest of the world, that's small potatoes.
How'd you get into this game, journalism?
Kind of fell into it. I was, like I say, making films before, and I was asked to remember write movie reviews way back when, and then one thing led to another, and now pretty much in the Gazette I don't do entertainment stuff. It's mostly city columns, but it wasn't something that I had pursued as when I was younger. It's just something I fell into, and I've been doing it for about 35 years now.
And how do you feel let me try that again. How do you feel journalism has changed since it's transitioned from exclusively print and it's gone into multiple online platforms?
Well, it's changed considerably now. I mean, it's like you have to, everything goes online immediately, and the news is like so current because, you know, like whether you read the Gazette online, New York Times, whatever, or CTV, everybody, like, whereas we had to wait days before to get certain stories out, everything is instantaneous. So, I mean, the consumer of news is better served than ever. I mean, some might recall during war periods where you have to wait for dispatches from the field coming 3-4 days a week later. Now, like, whatever happens in the news is like picked up like instantaneously. And it's changed the game a lot. And to the problem, of course, being that it's very like advertising as a consequence, because young people tend not to read the newspaper as much. So advertising is an issue, and it'll be a struggle to keep the industry going. You know, kids are looking at other stuff. I mean, be it you know, like different websites they get their information from, and it's a struggle to keep interest going from a certain demographic or younger than 40 years old. Like people, it's a challenge.
Well, here's one for you then. And in view of the fact that the print and the regular journalistic approaches are either in trouble or being harangued, are the issues of fake news and alternative facts leading us toward a modern Tower of Babel?
Yeah, I mean, this is what you're getting like in the States. I mean, where people subscribe to these conspiracy, like these ridiculous conspiracy, this QAnon. I don't know if you've been hearing about this, like absolutely ridiculous theories that come out of nowhere, and someone puts it on the internet, and you know, suddenly, if it's like it's perception reality sort of situation, and there are people who actually think that, you know, there are members of the US government who, like Hillary Clinton and certain movie stars, who drink the blood of babies and like have like file rings, and like you laugh at, but like there's people who are elected to Congress who actually subscribe to these theories, and that's really scary, because like when there's no arbiter of taste or like checking facts, and anybody's allowed to put any theories out there, it changes a lot, and people, it's scary.
Yeah. I'm afraid of opening up a can of worms here, but a couple of comments have come in that you're leading right into, in a sense. And one of them is, we surely don't talk about politics if we can avoid it at a club level. But in today's world, even being an environmentalist can be labeled politically, or even wearing a mask ends up becoming political. Another comment is, and a lot of things that shouldn't be labeled political are seen as such, like human rights and equality. Where you know where it's getting more and more difficult to draw the line between what's being politically correct and what is something that needs to be discussed.
But there's also so many lies that are put out there. I mean, as most sensible people know, like global, like climate change is a very real thing. I mean, I don't think anybody could deny that when you look what's going on weather-wise. But when you have, you know, certain people like, you know, to appeal to their bases, like deny the fact that, you know, this is a bad thing, that we're not in any imminent danger. We are in imminent danger, and we have to be very cautious about how we treat our planet, because it might not exist for a long time. I mean, whether if that's political or not, I don't know, but it's certainly about saving life.
I'm going to come off to the side here a little bit. How many articles or how many columns have you done for the Gazette over the years?
Oh,
10,
thousands.
15?
Well, do the math. I mean, I don't know. I do about 4 a week, sometimes 5. And I've been doing it for like 35 years. And we take time off for vacation. I can't count that high, but like, let's just say in a given year, if I'm doing, you know, 150, 160 a year, times 30, what is that?
From the 5,000 range.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a real unfair question. Of those 5,000, which one was your best article, or what you can, or what you consider to be your best type of article, let's say?
I mean, it changes. You almost forget like what you've done, and like you run into people who say you've written about them 25 years ago, and you forget. I mean, I can only judge what I've done recently. I did a piece. I don't know, you know, the musician Dennis Brott, a chamber orchestra conductor, and all the rest, who went through a horrible, horrible time with COVID. Coronavirus, and like he nearly died. He came off a plane and he was in intensive care on a ventilator, and his struggle just to get, like, took months and months to get back to playing cello, to get back to, you know, but like, you take for granted, well, you hear all these stories about people who are stricken with the coronavirus, as all of you have, but when you get the detail, like the grueling detail like that from someone who like fought the battle of their lives and just like was within an inch of dying, it really hits home at how important it is to just take advantage, do the smart things where with regard to distancing and wearing masks and washing. So I mean, stuff like that like jumps out at me, you know. And also I did a piece where someone was talking about veterans. This 99-year-old man, he just died, he was in St. Anne's, Harry Hurwitz, and he was one of only 2 survivors who emerged alive presently, well, up until his death, from this ship, the Athabascan, which had been torpedoed by the Germans during the Second World War. Very unassuming guy. And I mean, he, you know, his struggle just to stay alive, I mean, in the waters of the Atlantic while waiting to be picked up. And then he was sent off to a prisoner of war camp where they would have killed him if they had known he was Jewish. So he changed his name when going there. I mean, you know, you talk about veterans who are like, even his family wasn't aware of what he had been through and he never talked about it. So you meet someone like that and you understand the sacrifices that people made back then that, you know, you don't hear about so often today. And those are the things that really tug at your heart, that you know, stand out. I mean, and that's recent stuff.
What do you see for your future?
Well, this is the future.
We are the future.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, the here and now is what I'm focused on. You can't, like, especially right now, because you're limited to where you can go, what you can do. Just hoping the future is like shining bright with a vaccine somewhere along the lines that we all can get out and enjoy life. But we could be like this for, you know, another year. So, I mean, all of you are very well aware of this, and hopefully we can get back to life as we knew it, and things that we took for granted, just going to restaurants or going to movies or going to concerts, all those things that, you know, we never thought about it. We just enjoyed doing. And now it's just, you miss that so much.
Any other questions for Bill while we're here?
I've got a comment anyway, with regard to veterans and poppies. I'm glad to say that our local Metro store in Victoria is selling poppies. There have been veterans there every day. A great opportunity to contribute. I am an associate member of the Canadian Legion as well, so
That's good to hear.
Thank you.
Because not all, in fact, most aren't. Most of the grocery stores I've gone by aren't selling, and it's heartbreaking because these are, this is their sole source of income, to keep their legions going, to keep many of their interests going, and to get the word out.
Absolutely.
I have a question for Glenn Shepherd. Glenn, normally every year for many years now, we've been going down to the Metro in Westmount for a day or two, and ringing the bell for the Salvation Army of the kettle. Are we going to be able to do that this year?
We're in touch with the Metro to see if they will permit it. I know they're working on it, but there's a lot of reticence about where we can place them. I'll try and get an answer for next week. I'll push that through the chain.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a question. How's life at the Gazette these days? And is there still the same number of sort of full-time journalists? I seem to be missing a few of the former regulars. People that I know are still there, like Pat Hickey. And Donna Nebenzahl, I think, was there, but I think she has another assignment now and stuff like that.
People have been, but like there have been buyouts over the years. A lot of people have left. Donna Nebenzahl left probably about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
There's basically no, we don't work out of the office is closed. Everybody's working from home. So, certainly a lot of people, like from what it once was, were like hundreds of people. That number is down considerably because, for various reasons, finances, certainly it's not the numbers aren't what they were, but the commitment is still there.
You're the last daily English newspaper, I think, certainly in Montreal, and I think there's only one other in the province, right? It's the Sherbrooke Record. Is it still around?
I don't believe it is. It might be a weekly now.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Conrad Black would be disappointed.
Yes, probably.
We won't go there. With that, I would ask David Franklin to unmute yourself and thank Bill for us. You there, David?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, we certainly can.
Bill, thank you very much for your insightful presentation. The role of the media in society is critical to our democracy. As you can see in the United States, it's the media that interprets what is happening, the importance of the issues. They try to be neutral, to give a balanced view. Today, you have made comments about what might be called political, but we regard it as social issues, and particularly what's happening in our Montreal community. It's men like you in journalism that are critical to keep us informed. We appreciate your presentation and congratulations on your very.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the nice words.
Normally, Bill, when we meet in person, we have a nice little certificate that we give to our speaker. And we're not going to do that today, but Glenn will get back to you if he hasn't already done it. And we have a year's subscription to the Rotary magazine. So you'll be able to follow up and see what we're doing and what Rotary International is doing. So thank you very much for being here today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, we're going to continue here. Happy Bucks. Is anybody gloriously happy?